this is going to be spirituality and neurodivergency. I don't see many spiritual topics based on those who are neurodivergent. As such, it's kind of made me realise that a lot of the spiritual information, the guides, this is how you should be, it's all based on neurotypicals. And this has really been brought to the forefront for me for the past several years, because I've been trying to work myself to this guide of a neurotypical, that I should be beating fear, I should be beating anxiety, I should be this way, I should be feeling that way. Though as someone who is neurodiverse, that is just not the way we work. Our brains are wired in such a way that we cannot change, that actually bring about more anxiety. We can't do things the same way neurotypical people do. We won't necessarily have the same reactions. Therefore, just how much of all this spirituality that we're reading, that we should be feeling, which we can feel, just how much of that is actually something that we can actually achieve? Is that giving us goals and ideas and ideals about how we could be, when in fact this is actually going to give us an ideal which we can never actually satisfy? So this inevitably brings me to the question of what exactly is it that I should be doing? I could go over everything and reassess everything. I could just drop everything that I've read, though I've always been a firm believer in going on your own experience. And for those of us who are neurodivergent, which I only found out I am quite late at 43 this year, that is our experience. It's not about changing your experience, it's about understanding and lifting up your own experience. And if you're autistic, if you have ADHD, anything like that, that is your experience. And that experience is a part of your spiritual experience, and it needs to be taken into account. I fully believe that neurodivergency is chosen by the soul for a reason. Personally, being undiagnosed until I was 43 has played a big part in probably is my main life's challenge. It's what put me through the dark night of the soul. It's what's made me realise that, you know what, I can't fulfil all these typical ideals, typical 3D life. It's just something that I cannot do, and it has forced me to have to look at alternatives. It has forced me to be that alternative, because that alternative is my true, authentic self. Not that I realise that, because I have been masking and it's been hidden underneath the false self of a neurotypical. So basically, that is the false self of the false self. So taking all this into account, how does this actually change or alter the perception of enlightenment and being spiritually awakened? Because generally, that viewpoint for me is the viewpoint of a neurotypical, awakened, evolved human. So what would the neurodivergent, awakened, evolved human look like? You know what, that is a really good question, because I've never actually thought about that before. This whole idea has never come into my mind until I just said it then. I have absolutely no idea. Is there a difference? Can you awaken and heal and ascend yourself out of being neurodiverse? Technically, you're still using your neurodiverse brain, so initially I would say no, that isn't something you can change. You can change your beliefs, you can change some of your reactions, sure, but that neurodiverse brain is still there. Can you ascend above it? Whilst you're in your physical body and you're still having your human experience, initially I would say no, you can't. However, does the challenges that neurodiverse brain bring, are those challenges actually something that you need to overcome, or are they something that is meant to remain there as part of your spiritual experience? If that was the case, then our neurodivergency is a part of the spiritual experience. It's not something that needs to be changed or overcome or somehow ascended above. It's just one of the things in our human life that we try to make the best out, try to understand the best of, and accommodate and make the best that we can without trying to reach this perfectionist ideal that is just not going to be possible. Things don't have to be perfect. It's not about being perfect. I've realised another layer over the last week that our physical life actually has very little to do with our spiritual awakening, our healing, our ascension. It is literally just the stage. I have been housebound for at least the last 10 years, and honestly, I thought that I was missing out on so much experience, so much healing, so much experience that I needed for my spiritual journey. And I've realised over time that, you know what, it doesn't actually make that much difference. We are all fully capable of doing that work internally off our own backs. We don't need external experiences, external triggers to go through the majority of that. It is literally just a set for all of this to take place on. It doesn't necessarily matter if you are successful in life, if you have a good income, if you have a good career, if you have the husband, the wife, the family. Spirituality doesn't care about any of that. That's all 3D human desires and the ideal of what is a good life, what is the best life. And spirituality just really doesn't care about any of that. As long as you are being authentic, you are being true to yourself, you have your boundaries, your perceptions, your beliefs, values, that is what's important. So when it comes to the neurodiversity, it doesn't matter how good you are at life. It doesn't matter how successful you are at life. It all comes down to how successful you are at being you, the authentic you, the true you, the real you, and becoming the best version of that you that you can be. That is where it's important. And that has just made me realise one of the hardest things for neurodivergent people is to be their true authentic self, especially those who are undiagnosed for a good chunk of their life. They've always thought they were neurotypical. Many of them have masked up to maybe even over half of their life. They have never been authentic. They've been even further than their authentic selves and neurotypicals have been, because not only have they thought they were neurotypical, but they've been trying to be something that they're not, on top of not even knowing their authentic true self. So that makes me think that the whole neurodivergency, especially those that have a soul plan of being late diagnosed, that is almost focusing on that aspect of understanding a true authentic self via the human experience of being neurodiverse. In some ways, it's almost like level 2. You have the general neurotypical trying to become their authentic self. Then, just to make things harder, we have an undiagnosed neurodivergent person with this extra layer of challenge, this extra layer of difficulty. It's almost like hard mode. So in essence, this doesn't change the spiritual journey if you are neurodivergent. The trouble is when it comes to information online that is geared towards the neurotypicals. This is why it's so important to follow your own experience, because we are here having a self experience, a self, an I, a single, an individual. That is the experience that we are here having, and neurotypical or neurodivergent are just two paths that experience can take. Society is still set up and geared towards neurotypicals. It's not really that surprising that spirituality is even more so geared towards neurotypicals. Though that's kind of the part of the spiritual journey, isn't it? To find out about yourself, realise things about yourself. That's what the Dark Night of the Soul is as well. I'm actually finding this topic really fascinating to work through. I'm going to leave this video here while I ruminate on it, and I'm going to allow more things to come to my attention regarding this over the next few days, and I might make another one. Let me know in the comments how you're finding the spirituality, the spiritual information, if you are neurodivergent yourself. In the meantime, thank you for joining me this far. Remember to check out the website. There are information and articles there that you won't find on YouTube regarding general spirituality and twin flames.